First of all, you have a CPD cycle. So the learning cycle has 4 parts to it. Firstly, I'm just going to look down because I have not memorised this. There is planning, action, evaluation and reflection. Start off with planning. Why? Why are you doing this? And what do you want to get out of it? Once you've got thought of that, you also have to think of the what and the when and the how. And you've got to sit there and really think about what you want to do. Secondly, you actually do the thing. This is probably the easiest step. You do the thing you plan to do. Thirdly, you then evaluate it. You look at what you got out of it. You look at what happened. You look at what bits you found hard. You look at what bits you found easy. And really sort of evaluate what you got out of the course, whether you like the course format or whatever it was you were doing for your CPD. Next is reflection. Reflection is a harder part. One thing I will say, put some time in your diary, maybe 2 months after your CPD, and really reflect on how it's impacted your working practice, basically. So that's the cycle with the 4 stages. Now, let's move on to actually planning and logging our CPD. Now, I considered making my own log for this and showing it to you, but actually I found a perfectly good one. The website is called elearningmarketplace.co.uk. I'll put a link below if you want to see it. They have 2 logs and they both have slightly different purposes, and I think it's really worthwhile having both because people don't always think of both. As a self-employed person, I don't have a manager to give me objectives, although I do ask for feedback and I do make sure that anyone I'm working for gives me regular feedback. I have to manage my own personal development. One thing I will say, if you need to ask for professional feedback, the way I do it is I will email them and say, can I put 20 minutes in your diary tomorrow just to quickly chat about anywhere I can improve? You want to keep it, 1, short, so that they can just give you a few key things to improve on. 2, you want to keep it informal, not formal but not informal. You want to keep it the right level of formality. You don't want a big report, you don't want a big whatever. It's just, I want to give you a little bit of time to think about this, so I'll put the meeting in tomorrow, but I just quickly want to know where to improve. It's keeping it on a nice level that's kind of just formal enough that they can bring things up, but just informal enough that they don't start going over the top and giving you loads of critique when actually it may not be the most useful use of your time. So on to this template. First of all, it talks about the areas for development. So this is part of the planning phase. When you're planning, you need to think about what you want to develop, and it needs to be to do with your career. Don't just go, oh, I like that course, I'll do that course and that course and that course. No. Yeah, you can do a bit of that if you really want to, but that's wasting money and time. It may not be. You may find that actually it was a really useful course to do. And I'm definitely someone for lifelong learning and all that, but that's not really in for your CPD log. That's more just general learning for fun. So once you've worked out your areas for development, you then move on to an action to develop in that area. So the area may be something you already know about and you want to dig in deeper, or it may be something that you're not sure about, you know bits and bobs about, but you want to learn sort of afresh. Or it may be that you know a decent amount, but you want breadth of knowledge and move sideways. You've also got to look at the resources required. There are 3 types of resources really: time, money, and then people. So time, are you going to do this on work time or are you going to do it in your personal time? So as I'm self-employed, it all gets done on personal time. But if you work for a company, make sure that you go in, and if you've got a good plan like this, it's highly likely that your manager will go, yeah, sure, I can see how that can benefit the business. Yes, we'll give away some of our time. You can do this in working hours. So that's really useful to do. You can also try for money. So if you've got to pay for it yourself, that's life, but you may be able to get your employer to pay for it. I've found before, for things like conferences, I've gone to my employer and said, I want to do this conference for X, Y and Z reasons, and they've said, we'll give you a free day off work, but you have to pay for it. And I was happy with that because it means I've still got a day of annual leave left over, but they still are endorsing it, and it looks good to my boss because they can see that I'm developing myself. Whereas if I sort of go away and do conferences without telling them, they won't know I'm doing it, and it's really important to make sure that your boss knows about the development you're putting in place. It's very easy to develop yourself, but no one notices because it's just not clear. And doing this reflective process will mean that you do get noticed and that you can talk about it clearly, and it helps for interviews and it helps for all sorts of things, that you can talk about the things you're doing and how it applies to real life. Right, once you've worked out, the 3rd type of resources is people. So this may be if you need to shadow someone, if you need someone to teach you, if you want someone to give you feedback on something side project you've been doing. Those resources usually actually will end up needing to come from your workplace, or it may be a mentor or something like that, or a coach is another option. You've also got to look at dates. They've all got to be SMART goals. We love SMART goals, so that is specific, measurable, attainable, relevant and time-bound. Sorry, I had to look down because I don't know this off by heart. So make sure you've got that time-boundness in there. We've already talked about how it needs to be specific. It needs to be measurable as well. You need to know what you want to learn. And so at the end of it, when you're reflecting on it, you can go, I didn't learn that. I misunderstood the course and actually I didn't learn anything. Or instead, I learned these other useful things. And it means that you know what you can judge the effectiveness of the courses you're doing. Attainable, that you can actually do it, that you're not going to apply for a course and then either not have the time for it, not have the energy for it, or just not be ready for it yet because you haven't learnt the basics and it's an advanced course. It's got to be relevant. We've already talked about that. You've really got to make sure you're doing stuff which has an end goal. There's a reason why you're doing it. And timely, as I've already said. Do it. Also around the attainable, I just want to make this doubly clear that you do need to look at the type of learning and make sure you're doing stuff that's both good for you and for the type of stuff you're learning. So whether it's e-learning or in person, try and pick the best type of learning for the material, but also for you as yourself. Next, the success criteria. People don't realise that it's actually quite hard to succeed if you don't know what the success criteria are. I know loads of people who are like, oh, I never really succeed at that many things, I'm faffing about. No, that's because you haven't given yourself clear success criteria for your life. I know this makes your life sound really boring, that you've got to tick off success criteria. But I do, I'm like, I want to do this by the end of the year and I will have a little party if I complete it. It's really useful to work out what the success will look like and celebrate it. Really be pleased with yourself and proud of yourself for completing it, and make it clear how that will happen and make it attainable. Make sure you can succeed and that you're not giving yourself a stupid stretch goal. In your CPD plan you can have a few stretch goals that you may not succeed in, but you want a few solid ones that as long as you work at it you can succeed in. Thanks for listening to this series about CPD. Press subscribe and press the bell if you want to get notifications about my next video. And don't forget to like and comment. I look forward to seeing you again. Bye!